Ladies and or gentlemen, welcome back or welcome to the channel. My name is Zeno and let's talk about The Wolf Among Us 11 years after its release. This was one of my favorite Telltale games back from the 360 and PS3 era. I loved the weird and dark take on the fairy tale and fable-like creatures, blended into the modern world trying to live a normal life. I look back now and I have the platinum on the PS3 version actually, which is dated back on the 10th of January of 2015. So I myself am coming up on nearly 10 years since I have played it, and the game's 11th anniversary as a whole is actually around October 16th of 2013. If you are unfamiliar with the Telltale game, they are story-driven narratives with heavy choice and consequence, broken up into like little chapters with everything carrying through from beginning to end. I picked up this game on sale maybe a month back or so for like less than $10, and I thought, you know, why not? Let's give it a whirl once more during its anniversary period and see if it still holds up in the modern times. I'm actually recording this prologue bit before I actually start the game, so I'll report back with another segment, maybe after chapter 2 I'd say, just under halfway through the game. Then I'll finish the video off after I have recompleted the game and gotten the platinum trophy. That way you guys can hear my evolving thoughts as I play the game from start to finish. One thing I have always appreciated though about Telltale games is they're also really easy platinums and very easy completions in general. It just lets me immerse myself more into these games and not worry too much about trophies. As for the game itself, I don't remember a lot about this actually. A few characters and scenes from specific chapters. Don't quite remember the whole murder mystery plot thing or how the ending fully unraveled, but I'm just really excited to try it again as I remember wholeheartedly just loving this game. And let's just dive into it then, shall we? The Wolf Among Us, 11 years later. See you in a few. Alright, so I'm back. This is the following night, actually. I just completed chapter 2, I think it's called Smoke and Mirrors. First impressions playing this game again after so many years, very high. I am remembering why I loved this Telltale game specifically above the rest of them that I've played. This rendition of fable stories and creatures blended into the real world, just trying to live like a normal life is just very cool, and it's such a unique take, and I just really dig it. The game just starts off really strong as well. You control Bigby, which is the big bad wolf from Little Red Riding Hood, and he's now like the sheriff of Fabletown. There's like plenty of choice and consequence that come back to either like bite you in the ass in the following chapters or help you in future decisions. You meet Mr. Toad, and as soon as you do, you are making like game-wide choices on how you deal with him and his family. You meet the woodsman just after that, who's like beating up on a woman. You get into a fist fight. There's plenty of like dynamic QTEs, and then not long after that, you're thrust into the game-long murder mystery, which is a fable has been killed and you have to figure out what happened. And the reason it's so special is because fables themselves are apparently very hard to kill, and they actually live for hundreds of years. So when someone actually does die, it's kind of a big deal. One of the other characters, Snow White, she's like kind of your partner in crime that you work with. She's awesome. She works like a desk job for Crane Ichabod or something. She helps manage all like the Fabletown residents that fit into the human world. She really balances out Bigby as well as like the gentle hand to his more like destructive nature, because he's like the big bad wolf and she's Snow White. At the end of chapter 1, there is another death actually, and it leaves on like a really cool cliffhanger. And I also love that there's like these little snippets from like a TV show where it shows you like what's going to happen in chapter 2, and also at the very end it also tells you the different choices you made compared to other people that played the game in the past. I totally forgot this was a thing. This is such a cool feature, and it kind of gives the game a little social aspect as well and a feeling of connection in a way, so you can kind of see what type of player you are compared to everyone else and the different choices that you've made. Chapter 2, you see more characters, and it's really funny. One interaction made me really laugh. As you are investigating the second murder, you have to visit the place where the prostitutes are working, and one of them is the Little Mermaid, and I didn't remember this. Like, I don't know, man. I find this so funny. The Little Mermaid has turned to sex work. Like, what is happening in this game? And it's all so serious too. Like, she even remarks that she has new legs because, you know, she's supposed to have a tail because she's a mermaid, and that they were very expensive, and she's like, oh, do you like my legs? That were very expensive. I just fucking love this game. It's so much fun. Anyway, happy to be back in this wacky world of like fable creatures and stories. I'm gonna finish up the next 3 chapters and then I'll meet you all back here, although it'll be seconds for you guys. It'll probably be a few days for me, but anyway, I just want to give you like some first impressions after about 3+ hours of gameplay, and yeah, I'll see you in a few. All right, I am back a few days later, completion number 63, platinum number 51, a gruesome final scene for a platinum, mind you. The Wolf Among Us took around about 8-9 hours in total. It is done and completed. Now that I am fully done, let's unpack a few extra things that I noticed while I was playing. Going back to chapter 3, this was the first time I reloaded a few times to actually get a different choice. I just wasn't entirely happy with the outcome in the conversation that I was having with Snow at the time. I only did this maybe like one more time in chapter 5 right at the end of the game with the Crooked Man, just to see some reactions of different characters because I wanted to choose a different path. Otherwise, for the most part, I did stick to the choices that I made and I did live with the consequences. Chapter 4, this is especially when I noticed Snow's character and personality really started to show in this chapter even more, and who she wanted to be overall for Fabletown. She really wanted to do things like by the books, and she really pressed down hard on the aspects of running Fabletown with like rules and regulation and structure. This is also where I noticed I started to make more and more choices with Bigby that weren't always with Snow's ideals in mind. I started to get a little bit more morally grey because the world wasn't cut and dry, and the residents of Fabletown kind of were suffering when they tried to do things by the rules. So I actually tended to side with them a little bit more while I was trying to appease Snow's sense of justice at the same time. I noticed a lot of the choices were not just potentially law accurate as to what Bigby might do or to what Snow might approve of. I realized playing this game now that I'm far older and I see how the real world actually works better. A lot of the choices that I was making were 100%, like I said, morally gray choices, like an overall choices I think I'd make if it was actually me in that spot as well. Choices such as like stealing money from Crane's pocket, then instead of sending Toad to the farm because he didn't have glamour, like Snow insisted, I gave him money instead to buy it. I didn't burn down the tree of Auntie Greenleaf because it would just like utterly ruin her life and her family history, despite the fact that it was being used for like illegal magic, which the residents used, but the residents were using it because they were being turned away from the official channels of the office that Snow works in. I told Beauty and the Beast I'd make sure the Crooked Man gets his dues so they were protected from their debts, although quickly the Beauty and the Beast arc of them being in debt in the first place is 100% on them. Like, they were trying to live a more luxurious life because they were once royalty and they just didn't know how to live otherwise, but still I think they were 100% taken advantage of in my mind by the Crooked Man despite all that. I told a lot more white lies as well throughout my playthrough just to help people. I didn't always tell Snow 100% of everything either, just because her sense of justice might get in the way of Bigby's job overall, which I thought was really interesting. The game overall just kind of reminded me of today's society, like maybe not where I live specifically down here in Australia, but there is so many people in the world that try to live by the straight and narrow, by the books, official channels, government agencies, you name it, and they still get turned away, and sometimes they're never offered any help with what they need. And it's absolutely a real thing that happens in the world in certain countries and places. And a lot of the choices that the Fabletown residents were making, even though they knew it was like either illegal or it was looked down upon and it was more like hush hush, they did it because they kind of didn't have any other choice, and they tried to do the correct thing first, but it didn't work out, and so they had to look for alternative means. The game actually really resonated with me a little bit, and while writing this script, just that small little realization that so many of the stories of these characters were far more relatable now that I am older, and I ended up just overall choosing so many more questionable decisions because in my mind it was the right thing to do for the people or the job, and even though it wasn't always the morally correct thing to do, and I just can't fault them after learning all of these stories and backgrounds. Like, I really love how it made me think just a little bit. I was like, hell, hang on, what would I do in these situations, and how would we do the right thing with Snow and her ideals going forward, being by the books and setting strict rules, but also doing what's actually necessary for the Fabletown folk to keep them safe and look after them when they had no one else to turn to, as they did end up going to with the Crooked Man. Overall, I don't know, I just love this game. It cemented once again that The Wolf Among Us is my favorite Telltale title. The Borderlands one was surprisingly excellent too, at least from memory, despite the source material of Borderlands. And the Batman one I played quite a few years back, that was really good too, but this was just peak Telltale, and it's so frustrating to see them not make a sequel still. Like, it was announced back in February of 2022 for a 2023 release date. Hello, Telltale, it's nearly the end of 2024. You kind of missed the mark there. And there's been no more trailers or anything, which is like super annoying. Anyway, thanks to all those that just listened to me ramble about this game. I loved this replay 11 years after it came out, 10 10 years since I'd played it last. It's such a unique take on the fable creatures and an interesting murder mystery story overall. I absolutely recommend The Wolf Among Us if you like narrative choice games. You can play it on literally anything at this point. It's super cheap. It doesn't take long to complete. And hey, if you like trophies or achievements, it's also an easy completion too, so that's a plus. With that all being said though, remember, if you like what I do here, just giving you my very average opinion in some very casual content, like the video so YouTube knows it doesn't totally suck. Subscribe if you're new, I'd love to have you around. Follow me on my socials or join the Discord so I can chat to you there. Hope you guys having a fan-freaking-tastic rest of the day, and as always, my name is Zeno, and you guys take care now.